Good morning, everybody. Making sure my sound is working because, sometimes it's weird. Obviously, it's a different view today. Playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so I didn't feel like taking the computer back and forth from upstairs. So you guys get to see my wonderful living room, including Swiper in the background. See her over there. She's over there. Um, so today is, what is today? I don't even know anymore. December 12th, 2020. Oh, that's a nice little ring to it. Someone should look up the spiritual meaning of 1212 and 2020, just because the way I said it. If I get a chance to, I might later as well. But you know what? Let's do it real quick just to see, because it's been a crazy morning, and I feel really nervous and anxious all of a sudden. And I almost started this link sooner. Let's see, what does it mean? So 1212 symbolizes spiritual growth and awakening, manifesting of your dreams and awareness of your infinite being. And 2020 means what? Sometimes it comes up easier than others. Contribute to meaningful relationships. And this one decided it wanted to be challenging. And a good listener, love and spirituality. So, those are really nice. I like those. And then Rose says, it's an auspicious day, 1212. Plurals of divine feminine opening into our hearts and chakras. Yeah, after just reading that too, it makes sense. And obviously I'm not wearing my traditional shirt either. I woke up today feeling like it's just a weird day. Very, very, very weird day. And I'm curious to see how it progresses because it's just insane. When I had started this video, before starting this video, I wasn't even sure what I was going to talk about. Last weekend, there was no video, and every time I went to message that there wouldn't be a video because I was taking a class, I would completely forget. And it makes me realize even more how much I believe Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive dysfunction from a memory perspective could be because of people with spiritual abilities. Because, oh my God, I tell you, some days my mind is just not here, just not here. So last week I wasn't here because I did another stained glass class, and I did a 3D class, and I'll show you guys. So here's one thing that I made. So someone looks like a poinsettia, but it kind of got not as symmetrical in both directions. The other thing I made was, it's trying to see how to see it appropriately reflect the light. Someone had said, what is it? To me, it reminded me of a birthday cake, but then also it could be a school. And then the coolest thing, which is why I actually took the class, was this 3D ornament. So that's what I was doing last weekend. Those of you who don't know that I do stained glass, I'm actually slowly adding it into the business so people could do and order stained glass work for gifts. It helps distract me. And that's one thing that, we talk about sometimes, especially when it comes to people with abilities, like how do you get out of your head? How do you stop the spirits from constantly talking to you? Yoga doesn't work. Yoga, meditation practices, breathing and such turns on the ability. So how does someone like myself, why, thank you, Al. Someone like myself, de-stress, turn them off, get out of my stressors. And for me, it's using my mind, but not using my mind. So using stained glass work allows me to get out of my head, think, but not think, because otherwise I'll get a migraine from the spirits trying to talk to me. So I picked up stained glass work last year. I have some other cool things that are coming, including doing a picture of Bailey, swords, not the sword in the back if you're on this side. Wait, this side. It's always weird when you're trying to do opposites. That Dave made in our training class. But anyhow, a little side note. So yeah, I kept getting distracted, and then all week I was super busy at the group home with the kiddos, um, and it's just been one thing after another. And even this morning, I kind of woke up going, "Crap, what am I doing?" And I haven't told anybody that we're actually having a session. So as I was sitting there, I kept seeing and experiencing all these spirits. So I thought I'm going to give you guys a quick little update about Mind Body Soul Wellness Center in general. And then also, we're going to jump into spiritual readings, which I'm going to tell you the men over on the other side right now, which there is a lot of dads on the other side right now. They're very impatient. So you might be wondering, like, I kind of look like I'm like, I don't know, super tired too. I am. My eyes have been very watery for the last, like, I don't know, 18 hours. Like, it started last night, and then I woke up to very watery eyes. I think it's my sinuses, but I'm not positive. No fever. I checked because of COVID stuff. But anyhow, so yeah, so welcome to my downstairs. This is my downstairs back living room, Christmas tree. And it's a little hard to see, but over there is the train set that I put together for my son, a new tradition to help with the loss. To kind of make the holidays a little easier for me. Okay, so updates on Mind Body Soul Wellness Center. It's not set in stone yet, but I am looking for a location outside of the front of my house. For those of you that have not been here, I came to the front of my house after my son died because it obviously was just too hard to work. And when you own your own business, you know, if you don't work, you don't have money. There was no unemployment, regardless the amount of years that I put into it, because at that point I was self-employed. So to save money, I converted his apartment, that was once his apartment, into the business. And I'm looking at the point of my life where I'm able to take the business outside of here. So I'm going to express some things about me you guys don't know. So obviously you guys didn't know I do stained glass work, and I am working on that. They would all be customized. Size, prices vary depending on what it is. And pretty much any photo can be converted into a stained glass, which you'll see when it comes to Bailey. And I'm actually going to do one for Morgan as well. One of my favorites of him, which is him as a little kid, jumping into a ball pit that I still just love. The other thing people don't know about me is I am an ordained minister as well. And I have not advertised that so much, mostly because I got it originally to assist with the counseling services that I knew eventually I was going to offer. One, so I can understand a little bit more, but then also just in general, a way for me to bring counseling back to the business and feel a little more confident about it. Because regardless of our religion or non-religion, there's a certain level of understanding as soon as somebody says the words. Labels are important to us because we're human and we're alive. And so we need the labels in general. So that way we could, in fact, put a perspective to things. So I am an ordained minister. And the other reason that I got into it was because I wanted to be able to offer people ceremonial sessions, true church slash marriage license abilities. And when I say ceremonial, is because I am a firm believer of, you know, you are who you are, regardless of your sexuality and regardless of who you're attracted to. And if somebody, even if our state, it's not legal to be married, which I have to look into because I honestly don't know. I don't think it is, but unless something changed, you know, why not express your love to your family and friends, even if in the end it's just between the two of you. So I bring a different perspective on top of that because of these spiritual abilities. And I want to be able to provide messages from your loved ones either during the ceremony or just before. So I just really felt this passion to be able to bridge a gap for those on one of the most beautiful days, but also the most stressful as well. So I added that to my practice, but I haven't really been pushing it either. But I am going to start. 2020 is a new start, I think, for a lot of people, because even though COVID is still an issue and COVID is still going to be around and it's probably going to be around forever, like the flu is, at the same time, we will have, ways of dealing with it and understanding it. And like the flu, not everybody gets it, but they could carry it, or, there's all these factors. Um, but 2020 is really just a reset for everybody. I thought, or 2021, sorry. 2020, I kind of felt like I jinxed the world. Dave and I felt that shortly after when all this stuff started, because with all my cancer and pre-cancer stuff and losing Morgan, I just got to a point where it was just so difficult. And Dave and I were talking in 2019 that reset 2020, we could do this. And we're just going to reset, Bonnie. We're just going to reset. It'll be okay. We'll reset. And it just felt like the world got a reset too, which I'm not saying is my fault, but it's interesting how things play out, right? So anyhow, so 2021, I think, is a complete new reset for a lot of people. And that includes Mind, Body, Soul Wellness Center and myself. With potentially getting into a new space, that's going to open opportunities for others in my little community of Mind, Body, Soul Wellness to not only potentially either have a full-time room they can use, but also potentially renting out a room on a month-to-month basis or maybe a weekend. As well as there's enough open space in there that I can start up while practicing COVID distancing, the spiritual classes again to learn your abilities, as well as some self-help classes for physical pain, showing some moves. And one of the other things I actually want to do, and it probably be closer to like holidays perspective, is offer a small little tiny class on how to properly massage your partner's back. And it would be a couples thing, so that way you both train, to how to do it from a personal perspective. And this has given me the space to do that. As well as if you need a small little space, not small, but well, it's not huge either. But you need a space while practicing safe distancing to get, up to 10 people into that space. Then yeah, you might be able to rent a space for me. So I'm really starting to see my business name and why I picked it. Now that the mental health counseling is done, my internship is done. I'm actually being paid to be with the kids. So I am dividing my time there, which adds a lot of fulfillment regarding my son. So that's exciting. And then the last exciting news is starting today, actually. I put into place a loyalty program. And so what the loyalty program is you, for every $60 spent, you earn 3 points. And you do it right in Square. You don't have to download an app. It's all based upon the Square app. And if you tend to pay cash at my practice, as soon as I update that even you paid cash, check, or even a gift certificate, I believe gift certificates too. I have to make sure. If not, I'll make sure I do that manually. But you earn 3 points. When you earn 40 points, you'll get $20 off your next sale. If you get 55 points, you earn 60 off your next sale. Oh, no, that's backwards. 40 points, sorry. When you get to 75, I'm looking at it, but I'm not looking at it because the spirits are like in my face. When you get to 75 points, you get $40 off. I'm saying it backwards. Oh, my God. All right, spirits, back up a second. So, restart. When you get to 40 points, $20 off. 55 points, $40 off. 75 points, $60 off your next session. And 100 points, you can get a free small stained glass. That's about a 3x3 item. And that could be anything that you want me to make, as long as it's 3x3. And as well as something that's actually able to do, because obviously the smaller the glass, the harder it is to cut. But I would work with you on how to make it work, or what changes need to be, or you just let me have your creative mindset for it and you tell me what you're looking for. So, yeah. So, needless to say, lots of changes. And this is because even though I have so many wonderful, loyal people who have been with me since the start of all this, um, it I just feel like it's time to give back, not only from a COVID perspective, but also just because why not? So let's get this in place. I might adjust the total points depending on, how long it seems like it's taking some people to get there. But it doesn't mean you have to spend 60. It just means once you get to a 60 spend. So for some of my people that only come for 30 minutes, obviously that's $30. So it would take 2 sessions for you to get to that 3-point value. But it's just going to keep accumulating until you get there. Once you get to the one, you can not redeem them and go to the next and go to the next and go to the next. And it just keeps storing it. So I'm excited about that. And I'm hoping everybody else is too. So all right, so let's go on to the mini readings, because at this point, I swear to God, these men are about to really freak out if I don't get to the spiritual readings. So I'm gonna dive in at this point because there are so many men around us. All right, and it's interesting because there's some people on here that. Yeah, as soon as even before I start, I was hearing from Allie and Jamie's dad, and they're both on here. They usually are. They're some of my biggest supporters for watching the live stream, and so there's so much that he wants to say, honestly, and there's so much he doesn't want to say because it's live, and I get that. At the same time, what he wants to say that he can say, which is extremely important to him, is how much he loves you guys. And he wasn't necessarily the best guy to say it in person. And sometimes you knew it and sometimes you didn't know it. But he really, truly loved you guys. He just kind of got in his own way when it came to showing affections and kindness, especially the kindness more towards his to your mom, his ex-wife, and he just wasn't a man who could deal with stress. So making him wait to say this, it really stressed him out. Like he just was pacing behind me, and just in my ear, will you please tell them? Will you please tell them? Will you please tell them? So he wants me to tell you guys that Christmas was a time that was super stressful for him. When you girls were younger, you felt that and you understood that, which adds a little bit of stress into why you guys stress about Christmas too, outside of the money aspect, because we all stress about money when it comes to Christmas. But he wants you just to know that in the end, it's always about the smile on the faces. And sometimes it doesn't have to be the most expensive gift, it just has to be the experience. And as all your kids are getting older, and this is a dual message for some of the other parents out there, that as your kids are getting older, they're not going to remember what you bought them. So it's time to start to switch to experiences, even if that means they are opening up a present that is redeemed for something in the future, and then have a little small thing that they would enjoy to play with or enjoy to have, because the thing in the future also means we don't have to put up the money before Christmas when you're already dealing with so much stress. You can say in the spring you're going to Disney World or something like that, or skiing, or camping, or whatever the case, or even a show, a trip somewhere. That gives people time to actually get the funds together and still create a really good experience. So he wants me to express that to you guys because it's important, and it's something that they will always remember versus a new phone, a new game, a new toy. that we very rarely, I mean, I don't I don't remember most of what I've gotten through all my years of Christmas. Even last year, I have to think about what I got. But I remember certain things that I've done for Morgan. So I agree with what he's saying. It is an awesome experience, including the last couple years of Morgan's life. I did a scavenger hunt. So he had one main gift, and that was it. And I put the first clue in the tree, and he had to find it and then follow the clues to get to his final, his most expensive gift. He hated it at first, and he was confused at some of the clues. But then the next year, he said, "Are you going to do that scavenger thing again?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he was like, "Good, because I actually did like it." So he remembered it a year later. So find those special moments, because those special moments is what your dad always held on to, even when he didn't get to see you guys or talk to you as often. Um, okay. So the next dad that is actively coming into my face quite a bit um, is sorry, sometimes the comments, when they pop up, they kind of distract me a little bit, but it's just because they're cute and I just see the faces. But so the next dad that comes up is actually Kathy's dad, and I know there's multiple Kathys on here, and it's Kathy S's dad, and he's with your best friend. And although she doesn't want the shine on her, so she's kind of staying slightly behind. At the same time, I do see her poking from time to time behind him, and so Kathy, um, your dad wants you to know that you are always upbeat and positive, and you are always so ready to give all of you to any person that you meet, even a complete stranger. You just want to make their day, and you just want them to smile. And he's saying that he was like that in life as well, and that you learned that from him. And that the downside to that, though, is you don't focus too much on yourself. And so if you don't give some of that love and sunshine back into your own being of existence, then what ends up happening is you become exhausted, and yet you ignore it. And then the more you ignore it, the more aches and pains that you have, because you can't release what it is that you're experiencing. So he loves this shining light that you are for so many people. And I know who she is as well. I've known her for many years as well. Um, and she is all those things. So as he says it, like, absolutely. And yet, I never see her tired. She will never show that side to me. So I know she doesn't show that side to anybody but her husband. And yet, even then, she doesn't like to do that. So he wants you to, by the end of the day, he wants you to take at least 10 minutes for yourself and just breathe and feel his love as well as everybody else around you, especially your friend who's literally now doing cartwheels behind me. I don't know if she said she was very terrible at cartwheels in life, but oh boy, has she gotten better in the afterlife. She's really funny, regardless. So she wants you to, as well, just take those moments, breathe, recenter yourself, and just get heavy in your body. Let it sink in, drop your arms, just feel the weight around you, feel the love around you. And then when you're ready to just stop and you feel all that, take a huge deep breath and forcefully push it out of you, almost like a, and that's going to help recenter you for the next day. And honestly, you should be doing that every day. And that will help with some of your aches and pains and your stresses that you have. And make sure that Jerry is seeing a doctor. I know he does pretty regularly. But until you get a good balance of your energy and yourself, he will always protect you. Naturally, he has this ability to keep you safe. And since his energy is saying, don't come after her, she's already doing too much. And I'm going to be basically he's using the defensive lineman of football, which I don't know anything about football personally, but that he's the defense for you, spiritually and people wise. And if he has to defend you, he will. And he has put that out there so much and so far into existence that now that also goes around everything that is an energy perspective. So his health issues, the prior cancer and things like that, could they say it's because of this and that? Absolutely, because in the end, we can all, as doctors, health professionals, pinpoint certain aspects. And could it be those? Absolutely. But at the same time, it is also his energy to protect you. And so he is taking in energy that is causing health issues. So once you start to do this practice, he will then be better, and his health in general will turn around. And I don't see any more potential cancer scares. It would all be just his age of aches and pains, as well as the hard life that he lived of aches and pains, as well as a spiritual protector for you of his aches and pains. But aches and pains are far different than cancer and other problematic issues. So it sounds like, and he's apologizing, that it sounds like he's putting all this pressure onto you to take this on. Yet at the same time, it's really not, and it's not a lot to do. So saying that to anybody else out there, that this kind of seems like I'm talking to you, then do that practice as well, because the spirits will use multiple meanings, even if I cannot pinpoint exactly who it is because there's so many spirits around. I keep hearing the name Angela and John, and they're on the other side. So I don't know if this is anybody I was just talking to or somebody else, because they feel very close to them, but this room is getting very full. So I'm not going to be able to pinpoint necessarily everybody, especially in the aspect that I'm doing this in. All right. So if it is them, great. If it's not, then it's a similar message to somebody out there that needs to hear it as well. Okay. Man, oh man. All right, where do I go from next? All right, well, actually, this one's a little bit more personal, which is kind of nice because this never happens, but it makes sense because my grandfather is here, my grandpa Robert, which is my dad's father, and my dad's birthday was yesterday, so kind of makes sense he would chime in today as well. My grandfather passed away this year, so he feels like he's probably just now recently back from his transition, which is always nice because that's usually when family will start to chime in for a little bit and then they disappear. So, Dad, when you watch this, I just want you to know that Grandpa is pulling off his shenanigans in heaven, he's saying. Not just heaven, but on our realm as well. And he is cracking jokes. He is dancing a lot, especially with Grandma. As much as it annoys her that he still wants to dance all the time, she always secretly loved it. And so, but she still has to play that little role with him for some reason. She said it's because in the end, it's fun. It's fun to keep people on their toes a little bit, even in spirit. But so obviously Grandmom's here as well. But Grandpa wants you to specifically know, I'm going to take this watch off because it keeps trying to activate, which the spirits do that to me all the time. But Grandpa wants you to specifically know that it is okay to say no to people. And you do it because of how much it hurt you to hear no, especially from family, and especially because of the childhood that you had. Not only growing up financially challenged, because they didn't have money for the amount of kids that they have. I mean, even nowadays, for the amount of kids they had, it would be very challenging. Um, but it's also because they're not going to fill the hole in your heart that you're trying to fill. The hole in your heart is there because you've put walls up so tall and so deep and so wide that no matter what anybody does, it never will fulfill the hole that you have. And so you think by helping others, it will fill that hole. And maybe a little bit, and maybe over time. But the problem with that is as soon as you help somebody and you feel betrayed by them, even if they didn't betray you, but yet you perceive it to be a betrayal, now everything that that person has done for your heart has now instantly been wiped out. And so he wants you to take this knowledge that you have and conform your life to truly what matters. And what matters is not rescuing people. Because when we rescue people, either they never learn or they never feel secure enough to do it on their own. And sometimes him and mom were hard like that because they really felt that was the only way lots of people will hug and love and accept their fate, so to speak, of financial issues or just the pain they experience. And as he says that, he says, as much as I still really believe that, in the end, it's hard to say it knowing what he knows now and knowing every aspect of life in general. But at the same time, this is where living in this world makes it challenging, and that our perceptions make it hard to process things. And those perceptions turn to judgments, turns to hurt, turns to pain, whether it's on ourselves or we've reflected out to others. So he wants you to find what's really, truly your happiness within you and nobody else. If you can't love yourself, if you can't forgive yourself, nothing and no one's going to be able to do that for you. So he loves you. He loves me. He just said, I love you too, Bonnie. Grandmom says the same thing. They love all their kids, their grandkids, and their great-grandkids. And they might even have some great-greats. Yeah, I'm hearing at least one or two great-greats. So I know that was hard, Dad, and he said you needed to hear it, though. And again, for those out there that this makes sense to, listen to it. The last part, as he was saying these things, my conscious mind would come in a little bit because I was not agreeing with them 100% either, because it's easy to say that on the spirit side. It's hard to live it, even within myself, in my own pain of my son. So that is a good insight for all of us collectively. And, if we can just start to practice that a little bit, I think it would go an extremely long way for everybody. Just remember, everything is perspective. Everything. And it's funny because as I say that, Rose, I'm just gonna say because you've been very active on my side here. So your grandmom, I call her your grandmom. I know that's not what you call, Italian women. Nona, I think it was. But anyhow, yeah, she's like, come on now, you should be able to say that by now. But she's a little smart ass. But she, as she's saying all this, and she, this is all being said, and she's hearing all this. She wants me to tell you specifically that even when that whole thing, like when some people say the sky is purple and not blue, is it because they're colorblind? Or is it because their colors that they see are different? And so she said that. So I don't know if that was a conversation that you had recently. Especially like when that dress went around, like what color is it? It's that it sparked because for somebody, that's what the color looked like, whether they not have that full perception of color or they're colorblind altogether. So I found it interesting that she chimed in with that. So she wants you to remember that as well, especially the perspective thing. You try to be very understanding about perspectives, yet at the same time, as soon as you feel, um, what's the word she's saying? Um, she's using Italian, so I'm not, obviously I don't know Italian. So she speaks faster in Italian than she does in English, which she learned in the after life. So for some people whose family maybe didn't speak English, and I'm sitting here talking to them, it's because they can change the words to from an energetic perspective. But she's saying that when certain people's belief systems or idealisms challenge yours, you get very defensive and you get very not argumentative, even though she used that word. I just because I know you as well, but descriptive, I think would be a better word for you. And it's part of your triggers. It's absolutely, she's saying it's part of your childhood, it's part of your upbringing, it's partly because um, everybody had an opinion for you and you never were allowed to have your own opinion. So now that you're an adult and you can have your own opinion, you want to enlighten people, but yet not everybody's ready to be enlightened on whatever the topic is, whatever it is. Because, they're just not. They're just not. So she wants you to keep that in perspective, especially as you are starting to navigate your spiritual self more and more and more. And as you move into more spirituality and more energy and more and more and more, that not everybody can handle or are ready to hear some of your views and some of your understandings, just as the same with me. They don't always have that perspective, even with me. So it challenges some people to be triggered. And once we're triggered, we tend to either shut down or we lash out. So again, another general message that's good for everybody that's watching this into the universe. Okay. I'm going back to the men here real quick because there is about 10 men who literally jumped into my face. And these 10 men, which are none of the men that I've spoken to so far, I am hearing a Charles, another Robert, which is not my grandfather, but he's claiming he did do this. And even though I don't remember him doing it, until he just said it, I kind of remembered him doing it. And there's also a Jose, a John. There's I don't know how many. So somebody, if you keep count, let me know. There's a William that goes by Billy. There's a Finkel, which is a really weird first name, but Finkel. There's a I'm going to say, I'm doing my best to say it, but it sounds like he's saying or something similar to Kwamir. And I feel like there's two more. Hold on. I mean, more just keep coming in, but there's two more that are popping up. The other two are, I'm just close my eyes to distract them from everybody else. Roger and Carlos. And all right, there's three more that they're going to keep coming in if I don't stop it. But all of them used to read to their children or grandchildren. And it would be something as simple as just a little kid's book, even when the kid was older and well past the kid book. So like, for example, like reading a book for a 5-year-old to an 8 or 9-year-old, and then laughing about it because of how silly that it actually is, and just using that time to not only educate and show the importance of reading and comprehension, but also because it was a good time for them to be grandparents or dads. Because from a societal perspective, the male role aspect of various things, when men spend time with children, they instantly, for the most part, get that perception, are they doing something wrong? Because women are supposed to be the nurturers in our society, and men are supposed to be the people who go out and, herd and bring us food and take care of us, the security. But there are a lot of men out there that really just truly love their kids, and they are not trying to do anything weird or anything funny or anything like that. And these men specifically were those people. They were not child molesters. They were not doing anything weird. And even some families kind of felt like, was there something weird going on? Because they insisted on every night to tuck them into bed and read them stories, and read at least a story. And there was nothing weird going on. There was no shenanigans, at least with these gentlemen. They truly just used that time to embrace the nurturer that they wanted to be for their kids and their grandkids, that society didn't necessarily allow them to be. And one gentleman in particular goes back to the 1800s. So, think about it back then. You definitely didn't do that. You were, working all the time in your own study when you're not working, in your own space, including this gentleman from the 1800s. He's pretty wealthy at the time. This is the Finkel guy. So whoever he is, he had a lot of money, and that was something you did not do. The woman takes care of the women, and the kids, and the nurturing aspect. But and the reason they're coming forward is to stress the importance of taking the time to read. And if some people are posting, I apologize if it does not post through. It's for some reason I'm hearing clicks, but I'm not seeing messages come through. So I just want you to know, and maybe it's, hold on, let me see. Let me, if I delete some of these, maybe it'll come through. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, and I think they're starting to come through a little bit more now. I guess it gets jammed up and you can't do so much unless you just sent that. Yeah. So the importance, and they want to collectively say this, one, as, hey, just so you know, it's not always about inappropriate things. That does happen, and it infuriated them that this happens and that kids get put into these situations. And in the end, the most important thing for those that do that, whether you're male or female, whether it's sexual or physical, no matter what it is. And I find it interesting, the screen just went really dark. I don't know if it looks that way to you guys, but as I said that, there was a spirit who got in my face, and it's between you and I and the camera. That does not want me to say this. So I'm going to kick him out real quick, because not only is it important to say this, but it's necessary. So let me get rid of him real quick. Okay. Might take a moment for my screen to readjust. But I think it readjusted at that point. Okay. But any form of potential abuse, physical, emotional, or even mental, report it to the authorities. You might feel like you don't want to do that because what if you're wrong? Okay. Then let them find that you're wrong. Because even if you're wrong, and maybe somebody's just a little hard on them, at the same time, maybe they'll change how they're treating the kid to begin with. So if they're stressed out and they're just, seem to be miserable and taking it out on the kid by just being overly, not overly aggressive, because that kind of tends to be, but let's just say like distant and just go to your room, leave me alone. That's going to change their perspective as well. But then what if you are right and you didn't say anything? And now this child is going through some really terrible feelings and emotions and physical abuse and sexual abuse, whatever the case is. It's better to be wrong than right. Because if you don't report and you are right, that's just going to perpetuate the problem. And the thing is and all these men are talking in unison as well, that as they are speaking this, they're saying at the same time, these people who are doing this to other kids have done it to themselves. Or not to themselves, but it was done to them by other people. And it creates that perpetual pattern, because we're not born with the desire to go after little kids. It's not an excuse. It's not okay in any way, but everybody needs to help, whether it's the person who's beating, sexually assaulting, verbally abusing, whatever the abuse is. If it's not okay, it's not okay. And it's okay to make sure it gets looked into. Where it doesn't become okay is when you're purposely just trying to go after somebody because you don't like them and you figure, well, this is a way that you could adjust or make them pay, so to speak. Now that definitely got brighter. That's because all the men backed off of me. Whew, okay. Which, a lot of them left, which is amazing. So hopefully you saw that light change, and it's because it's close to the end of our time. So Rose, you had said my next door neighbor weighs heavy on my heart, which I believe you had posted that before, but it was after the video with the one prior with the two little girls that had were having the Native Americans assisting them, but came off scary. And that's where this is a good way to tie in what those gentlemen were saying and the real world at this point, because Rose asking this question about the young boy and why would it weigh heavy on her heart. The thing is in the end, seeking out somebody else to give you the approval to do something that you know might be the right thing to do is a way for you to feel like you have strength within numbers, as well as a way for you to feel like, oh, well, Bonnie told me to go report this, so I'm reporting it. And in some ways, it takes away that ownership and blame if it's unfounded. If, you stepped in and maybe you shouldn't have because you were completely wrong. And the thing is not knowing how to handle that, because we don't want to be wrong and we don't want to cause problems and we don't want to shine light on somebody who maybe didn't deserve it, and then the retaliations that person might put against us, or take from the over inundated social workers out there that already have a ton of cases to work through and review, and yet what if I'm wrong and now I'm taking away from somebody else who actually needs the assistance and the actual needs somebody to come through. That's a lot of weight on somebody's mind and shoulders and heart when we don't have the necessarily knowledge, skills, or the ability to do some research. Because what if it's not the parent, the house, whatever, but it's a neighbor, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a sister, a brother? Like, we don't have that knowledge because we don't see within somebody else's world and perspective, right? It could even be a peer at school, younger, older, a school teacher, a principal, a bus driver, anybody this child has in contact with throughout the day. And it could be as simple as what's the word? As simple as somebody within our life that maybe just said something just slightly different. Because as children, we learn from our caretakers, whether that's parents, guardians, teachers, peers, whatever, our world around us. We learn our social cues and our understanding from the people we interact with. Yes, in today's technology and for the last, 20 years, we have the capability of experiencing other worlds and other cultures within society through the wonderful world of live streams, news articles, Google search. I'm a Googler. I'm always using Google. It's not, they don't have to pay me to say that. Just a better search engine, in my opinion. That's the only reason why I use it. I hate the other ones. But it's still something we don't experience in our three-dimensional world. It's two-dimensional. It's one-dimensional. Actually, it's one-dimensional, right? Yeah, we can see me moving, but you can't really see me moving. There's no depth to me outside of the image. So we can experience other things, but what we truly take in and absorb in is our, societal, around us. How we were raised, who raised us, and the experiences that we were able to experience. So for some kids who maybe didn't get to experience anything but their parents because they live in the middle of a farm, and that's it, their parents and their siblings. Well, at that point, that's all you know. So you know your parents' perceptions, your parents' roles, your parents' society, all of that. But then you get into people who live in a big city and they have interactions every day, all day. There is thousands of places that people can have interactions and experiences with. So it's important to not feel like you have to make that decision on your own. If you suspect something is wrong, say something. We're so conditioned in the airport, see something, say something. But when it comes to abuse, neglect, trafficking, whether it's drug trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever it is, we don't say anything because we don't want to be involved. We don't want to be hurt. We don't want retaliations. We don't want to be wrong. But who are we to decide what is right and what is wrong when it comes to that situation because we're not trained to do so? So just see something, say something, not just outside the airport, everywhere you go, not even with children. If you know a woman or a man that's being physically assaulted by their partner or sexually assaulted or whatever, it's say something. Say something. Let the people who know what they're doing look into it. Rose, specifically for your neighbor next door and your feelings of being him being terrorized and that he's struggling. He's got a lot of issues from every pretty much avenue except for his mom. His mom is his biggest supporter, and she is stressed and she is frustrated. And she does her best not to take it out on him in any way. It would be no different than you or I trying not to take our stress out on our children. But he is being bullied at school. He is, at least this is what I'm hearing. Obviously, you don't know unless you truly find out. He has some spiritual attacking going on, being that spiritual pathway runs through his house as well. And he sleeps in the room similar to where most of the pathway is going through. So the back room at the top of the stairs. And he is struggling. He is definitely struggling. I am not seeing any kind of sexual issues, sexual abuse or assault, but I am seeing a lot of physical aspects, which most of it coming from spiritual, most of it coming from peers, and a little bit from family members. And some of that is because they don't know how to help him. He comes off as very needy around the people that he loves and cares about, but that need is also the spiritual side, and him just trying to find help because he's just terrified and scared. So, what you can do to assist him is to allow him, when you see him, put some bubbles around him. You know what he looks like, so before you go to sleep at night, maybe put a bubble around him. Visualize what he looks like, because you know what he looks like, and create a good 3-foot bubble. And in that bubble, say nothing negative can affect him, regardless of what comes through from a spiritual pathway perspective. And just do your best and see if it improves. If the spiritual aspects approve, then what ends up will happen is the family dynamics will start to improve as well. There'll always be some issues, being that they live in a spiritual pathway, but it could help lessen some of the gunk going on. And if that happens, mom might reach out to you and be neighborly versus avoiding. But in the end, if you still just not sure about the physical aspect of it, it is absolutely okay to make an anonymous call to the child welfare hotline. And I'll pull that up for anybody who needs to know. Abuse hotline. I have to look because I don't know it off the top of my head. It's 1-800-4A-CHILD. So very easy to remember. 1-800-4A-CHILD. That will allow people who are seeing this, even if it's friends who see it. It doesn't have to be adults. Any teenagers out there, young people, know how to use a phone and know how to understand when something is bad. You can make a call as well. So it's the only way to start to keep our children safe. All right, so with that, we are at the top of the hour. I appreciate everybody who hung in there for a couple more. Next week, what is next week? Oh, next week is the weekend before Christmas. Ooh. You know what? Let's do some spiritual readings again. It's the holidays. It's what everyone needs to hear, is loved ones. So anybody out there who has a question they want answered, or would like somebody to see if somebody's here, even if you don't want me to put your name on the video and I can give you a code name instead, just put that in the message as well. And we will process some more spiritual readings. Enjoy this Saturday. It feels lighter in here for me, and most of the spirits have gone. So that's a blessing sometimes. Be safe, and I will see you all next week.